Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of the Global Exclusive Podcast. This week, we're actually recording in two different segments. One is being recorded on one day and another on another day, and we have some different people for each segment. So for this segment, you've got myself and Barros and Cotton and we're going to be talking about the Final Fantasy IV banner. We're also going to talk about the leak for the Valentine's Day units, and we're going to do a little bit of discussion on Tel Fulsanis. In the second segment, we've got a special guest, and you'll have Hazard and Barros and Shadow Walker. All right.
Whoa, Aiden can't heal. We've already talked about this.
I think we really need to crush Barros' spirits here.
Fuck that unit. It's absolutely unpullable.
And Hazard can't stop us.
So the unit's called Big Hard.
So for Final Fantasy IV, we're going to dive right in and start talking about White Mage Rosa. So she's the free unit that you get from this Mog King event. And
a pretty good one, actually, surprisingly.
Yeah, I think that if you look at the Mog King units that we've gotten from the past few events, they've all been pretty reasonable in terms of being budget substitutes for roles. Like Gentiana isn't the best mage, but she's reasonably good. Immortal Knight Garland is...
But when Gentiana came out, she was actually pretty strong.
Yeah, well, she was strong by mage standards.
Like, she was stronger than Terra, okay? That really hurts.
Yeah.
We should not talk about that, alright? We should not talk about that.
No, let's just forget that awful, shameful event.
Yeah, so with Rosa, she's kind of bare bones as far as healers go. She has Kiraja, she has I think she has Asunaga, but she also has AoE re-raise.
She doesn't have Asunaga. She has a ability one, yeah.
Oh, ability version. Okay, yeah. So she has a lot of the standard healer kit. She also has AoE re-raise, which not all healers have, even the top tier ones. Like Folka doesn't have it. Folka makes up for it in other ways and is still better than Rosa overall. But if you need AoE re-raise for something, then it can be pretty useful to have your healer provide it instead of trying to get it from somewhere else, because there aren't many non-healers that have it.
Of all the free MK units we've gotten so far, White Mage Rosa is easily the best unit for a new player. Like, hands down, she is actually going to be amazing for someone that doesn't have a roster, because she can actually do damage, and she is almost a meta healer. Obviously, she lacks a lot of the powerful healer kits, right? But she can still get you through most content.
Yeah, I think
she basically has a functional healer kit. Like, she has Kiraja, she has re-raise. That's basically what most healers need.
Yeah,
so her kit is really functional.
Yeah, and she has the cooldowns to save you. Like with the AoE re-raise cooldown, that's actually a really powerful cooldown.
Yeah, I think that what we see with Rosa is the fact that the gap between the best healers and the worst healers just isn't anywhere near as wide as the gap between the best and worst units of some other roles, particularly damage dealers. So even though Rosa isn't that impressive compared to the best healers, she's still good enough. You could probably clear every trial in the game with her as your healer. It would be harder, but you could do it. And like you said, she also has damage dealing skills. You can use her that way. I probably wouldn't recommend it unless you're really starved for options, but it is something that you can do.
Yeah, but imagine White Mage Rosa dropping into your lap as basically the first unit you get in the game.
Yeah.
You're going to be able to do so much.
She's fantastic for new players, just because she's, like I said, she's a good enough healer to handle any fight in the game, and you can upgrade from her, but it means that you don't have to worry about pulling a good healer as a new player.
Yeah, exactly. Which is actually... Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, but I guess it's important to note that the difference between White Knight Rosa and the best healers in the game isn't in terms of their healing capabilities, because it's pretty much the same. But what the best healers in the game, such as Myra, Folka, or Dr. Aiden bring, is their support capabilities.
Whoa, Aiden can't heal. We've already talked about this.
Okay, except for Aiden. Maybe Lena.
Yeah, except for Aiden. No, it's fine.
But yeah, White Knight, C made me say it. White Mage Rosa's support capability is pretty bare bones. Other than the Asuna, her re-raise, and the heal, she really doesn't bring anything else except for any other support capabilities.
I think
Well,
that
except for her bird killer buff.
Asunaga can be a little risky because her ability heals, aside from the AoE re-raise cooldown, are very weak. She has like a Kiraga tier heal, I think, which is not going to heal for a whole lot. And you can.
Well, actually,
does that heal
her
on its own?
Sunaga ability heals. So it's not Kuraga because it's the base is Kuraja level, actually higher than Kuraja, but the mod is half of Kuraja. So it's like it's going to heavily
I think you're looking at
outperform
the wrong
Kuraga
one.
because it's no. It's the Sure Aim, right? Oh, sorry. Oh,
no,
that's a regen.
Sure Aim is the heal over time. Yeah.
Right. Oh, yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Yes, the pure prayer is Kuraga level. So yeah, that's not gonna cut it that much. If you're using abilities, you're not.
You can dual cast that, or I guess for SPRs though, I would have to do some math. Dual casting that with the Prayer of Extermination, which heals for a flat 4K, that might be better. I don't really care to do the math live on a podcast, but yeah, I would estimate you're probably getting like 8 or 9K out of dual casting, maybe 10K if she has really high SPR.
Yeah,
just at a glance, which is fine. It's
actually going to be fine for most trials, really. Like even Tel Fulsanis, not many turns you need to heal over 10k, even in phase 3.
Yeah, it's just not as
I
much.
argue that you might need that in phase 3.
It's just not as much as Kiraja plus Asunaga, which other healers can do. So you need to be aware of that when you're planning things out. She can also dual cast AoE raise plus a heal, but at that point you're only getting like 3 or 4k heals, and that's a lot sketchier. Unless she has her AoE re-raise cooldown, but if you need to raise and then AoE re-raise, then it probably means there was something wrong with your strat.
Yeah, but I just want to talk about I mean, obviously, actually, I think she's well designed because I think actually someone designed her with the new player in mind. Because okay, first of all, prayer restoration, her cooldown on 5 turns. 5 turns is not long, and that is her threshold pushing cooldown, because that first of all heals up your entire party and gives you re-raise. Or if your reset cooldown, you just got destroyed, you want to like heal up a bit and give everyone re-raise because you think you're going to die in the next turn as well. It's amazing for that she does like some damage and healing at the same time. She does have this niche of giving everyone bird killer. I don't know how many trials in the future are going to be birds, though.
There's the Chocobo trial, but that's like 9 months away.
Yeah.
I mean, Dark Visions.
I think that by that time, anybody that has White Mage Rosa will hopefully have a better healer.
Yeah, maybe. But again, like I still want to say she's not bad. She's especially
definitely.
For a new player, you're going to be clearing. Like this is like you're not going to be lacking a healer for a very long time as a new player if you get White Mage Rosa, and you might actually not even be lacking a damage dealer for a while either.
Yeah, like I said, this is something that we've seen. If you look ahead at JP, a lot of the Mog King free units are pretty decent in terms of budget substitution for roles. I don't think that's true of all of them. I believe there are still some that are just useless, but like we will eventually.
Yeah, like
get
Garland, for instance, is not going to help anyone.
Yeah, like isn't there a Final Fantasy 13 Mog King event that gives a tank that's really, really good?
Yeah.
Really?
The Final Fantasy really Type O gives a really, really good breaker.
Final Fantasy 13 Lightning is like nearly as good as Charlotte as a magic tank.
Oh wow, but that's really cool.
The Type O Machina is like a really, really good free breaker. And then there's another one, Kimihari, does spammable double mirage every single turn.
Oh yeah, he also has because he has blue magic, right? He also had another ability that was actually really strong, if I remember correctly.
He has a defense SPR buff 180%, and then it also buffs fire, lightning, and water resist by 80%.
I like it. I mean, it's a way for players to fill up gaps in their roster. I really appreciate what they're doing with the free units, and it's also a free bonus for the veterans. So it's like everybody wins.
A lot of the time with new players, it's hard to start out, and it's hard to give advice to players that are starting out, because if you don't pull a unit of a specific role, like a breaker or a healer, it's it can be really hard to find decent substitutes.
Yeah.
And they've done some work on this by just slapping bits of other kits into some units. Like, you can use Radiant Lightning as a Brig, or even if she's a 6-star. It's not great. She only has 60% Brigs at 6-star, but it's enough at least for early trials.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing.
Yeah, but I mean, like, it's nice. It's nice that they're doing these things because FFBE is a very complex game, and I'm thinking as a new player, it can be quite a daunting challenge to fill out your roster, and this is really helping out. But there's one last thing I want to bring up about Rosa, and that's actually her STMR, which you can obtain, probably not as a new player because it requires a lot of currency, meaning a lot of bonus units, but it's actually really, really good for units that need LB fill.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Like, LB fill on an accessory is already pretty rare. 100% on an accessory with 2 autofill and some defensive stats on top of that is great for a free item. And honestly, great even if it weren't free. No,
Yeah.
yeah.
You would put this on like Fid. You'd put this on well, maybe not Charlotte, but like definitely Fid, definitely Juraisha, and anyone else you want to be spamming LB with.
Edgar.
Yeah, Edgar, absolutely.
So I think we've probably said most of what there is to say about Rosa, but the next unit on the banner is Palamon, and I think there's less to talk about here just because they're a damage dealer, and damage dealers tend to have more boring kits.
It's just another Chaos Wave Awakened damage dealer.
Yeah,
And one that's locked to fire.
Yeah, that actually sucks. Well, fire, or I guess, yeah, fire. Yes.
It's basically fire.
they're pretty similar to Operative Xyrus. They don't burst as hard as him, and they're element locked, but they do have on-demand AoE Mirage, and that same skill also applies 20% magic mitigation. So whether it's a physical attack or a magic attack, they can help the party and help themselves, more importantly, because they're probably the squishiest members of your team. But the problem is that a lot of bosses still use fixed attacks, and they have the same issue that most mages do, where it's hard to gear them for bulk. They don't have as good access to killers as physical chainers.
Depending on the race.
Hmm.
Like, there's a lot of good machine magic killers, even better than physical.
Yeah, I think the main issue that mages have is that they don't have the good item world rares that physical chainers do, so they don't get like 20% free HP just from that. And they don't have good accessories or other slots that have free HP on them. Like, physical chainers can use Precious Hairpin or Storm Kickers or whatever in a free slot, and it really helps bulk them up. And mages don't have options that are as good as that.
Yeah, like mages do, but only if you can STMR up them to TDW or True Dual Wield, because then like most mages actually do cap magic pretty easily, and you have a lot of slots free, and you can like usually I would put just defensive stats nowadays on all my rods because that's the way to go.
Yeah, I think that the problem there, though, is that if you're comparing an STMR mage to an STMR physical damage dealer, I think the
they're
physical
going to be
damage
tankier.
dealer still wins. It's just
Yeah.
STMRs let mages catch up to where physical damage dealers are starting at.
Yeah, that's true, which is a shame, but it is true. Although, again, they do have some things going for them, like, for instance, being able to switch elements on the fly. Not Palamon, unfortunately, but other mages.
Which is one of the biggest downsides.
Yeah, exactly, which is like the one big upside of being a mage, unfortunately, they don't have, which is being able to cover multiple elements, being able to survive through bosses that imbue your party, and stuff like that.
I don't get why Gumi keeps doing this. They make it so that mages can swap elements, but they also give them stacking modifiers, so it really hurts for them to switch elements. Or they make a mage that's perfect for Moon in almost every way. Like Palamon, they have Mirage, and they have Magic Emit, which are great for Moon, but then they're element locked, so they're bad. So they're borderline.
Listen, that's not even an issue with like Tsuki TMR, Sylvie, as well as Fire Whip. Come on, man.
But technically, Fire Whip is an issue on them. I mean, they're doing fire already.
Yeah, Barrows, come on.
They do have an interesting ability, though. Their mini regen has a Kiraja strength heal over autocast next turn heal, which is something you could use if you know you're going to get a lot of damage the next turn.
That they can replace your healer by using a pair of them and alternating between that, but it can be really sketchy because it doesn't do the Kiraja tier heal until the next turn. So if they die and get re-raised, that will cancel the next turn heal, and then you don't have any heals, and they have to unlock it, and then they have to use it, and then on the third turn after that, it'll do the big heal. So it's
Still shaky.
I would be very, very cautious of relying on that unless you really know what you're doing and are absolutely certain that you can keep them from dying in the first place, because otherwise it's going to get very messy.
Yeah. And it's also a bit cute, I'm going to say, that their twin break ability, learned at level 110, inflicts petrify on them, but unlocks quadcast. So that's funny. And for all the listeners that aren't old enough to have played FF4, you just won't get the jokes. It's fine.
You want to explain the joke?
No, it's actually fine because like those that actually wonder, they can play FF4 because it's still a good game.
Yeah, no spoilers.
Yeah, no spoilers, exactly. Doesn't matter how old it is. All right, so let's move on to the next unit then, because it is the unit that everyone wants to talk about, really, and it is our dear Pencil.
Pencil? Is that the working name?
Yes.
All right. So Paladin Cecil, he's the magic tank that's probably been hyped for I don't even know how long. I guess since he came out in JP, so like 9 or 10 months now. I guess they moved him up a little. Maybe it's more like 8 months. Anyways, he's obviously a magic tank, so he has all the standard stuff there, magic cover and so on. But his support kit is absolutely fucking insane. He basically ate Ignis for breakfast and took his entire kit, except that he doesn't really have the same setup time. He has 80% elemental resist for all 8 elements. He can only do 4. He has, well, let's back up a little bit. He has 2 stances, light and dark, and he has different support abilities in each kit. And each of those stances has 4 elements with 80% resist. He has 50% general mitigation. He has AoE heals. He has 180% stat buffs for the whole party. He's got breaks, and maybe most amazingly and easy to overlook is that whenever he gets attacked with physical or magical, he can counter up to 6 times per turn for each type of attack with an ability that fills 2 LB crystals for the party. So if he's getting 6 counters from physical and 6 from magical, that's up to 24 LB crystals for the entire party every turn. That's insane. And it's a counter. It doesn't even take up his action.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, literally, we don't even have to talk about this unit because he has everything you would ever want in a magic tank and a lot more. And he is, like, almost twice as bulky as Charlotte, right? Or maybe even more than twice.
I mean, I've seen some builds. He kept his spirit, okay? That is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, his SPR and his HP are just incredible. It's not even like going to his like active abilities, like just Muspel mentioned, but like just his pure ability to tank any magic damage and ignore it.
But still, we need to say, like, those who didn't pull Cecil, like myself, like, fuck that unit. It's absolutely unpullable. It's okay, because people that actually play JP say that Charlotte is enough for all content that is upcoming.
I
so
mean,
Cecil
Chow
is like,
enough, okay? This isn't JP. Chow is enough.
Okay, but let's back up for a bit. I agree that Cecil is overkill, but Cecil also has the ability.
Wait,
like
listen, why are you
mentioned,
saying Cecil? Like, do you have a lisp, speech impediment? What's the problem here, bro?
Okay, fine, Cecil.
Thank you.
There we go.
Pencil, all right?
Yes,
pencil.
pencil.
Let's just use
Actually, pencil. Let's just agree on pencil. Excellent.
Regina.
All right, Pencil does definitely have Ignis's whole kit on him, and I think that alone should, like, if you in a vacuum, would you take Ignis or would you take Pencil? Like, if you disregarding that you needed a magic tank, and even then, I would actually argue that Pencil is probably better. So, like, he might be overkill in the magic tank department, but even just as like a regular buffer or support, like, he's just amazing. He has 180%
listen, I was just trying to
buffs.
make myself feel good, okay? Now you just went out and ruined it.
Okay, let's just...
Well, that's your fault for pulling on the double rainbow banner.
So realistically, I think that for people who have Charlotte, this banner is something that you can skip, but it depends on what your other roles look like. If you're already pretty good in all departments, then Cecil is a big enough upgrade for Charlotte that you should probably pull for him. But if, for instance, you don't have a good healer, or you don't have a good breaker, or you don't have a good, I guess maybe not, I probably would pull if I didn't have a good chainer, just because chainers are a dime a dozen. They come out all the time.
You're gonna just like randomly pull one soon. That's strong enough.
Yeah, but if you have problems in other roles, then you can skip this banner. If you don't, it's still worth pulling, even if you have Charlotte.
Okay, but
Yeah.
there's just one disclaimer here. Pencil needs his 7-star. At 6-star, the only thing he can do is tank and change Stardust rate. That is literally the only thing he does. He needs his 7-star to get all the support stuff.
Yeah, because he has so many unlocks that he gets.
They're basically all unlocked. His support stuff are all unlocked.
Which is also really weird, because also I hate reading his kit on the wiki, because like since it's unlocks, it's terrible to like keep track of what he can do and can't. But like he just has everything, and to be honest, I just don't know how they designed this unit. So obviously it's like immensely powerful, but like design-wise, doesn't anyone think it's a bit weird? They just took everything that's good and put it into one unit.
Well, I think this is actually the first time where I saw like a dual stance unit work out though. Like, remember when they tried that with Barrel and that kind of just failed?
Yeah.
And I think there was another unit before where there was a dual stance thing going on, but Pencil is like the first unit to actually do dual stance well. But the issue with dual stance is that you need to do both roles perfectly, and the problem with Pencil is that he does both roles so perfectly. So it basically becomes like, well, this is a design fuck up, if anything. So like,
it's just a bit. I mean, if they, I would get it if there was actually a cost to the stance switching, something that could actually like be a risk to your party if you did it. But there isn't, and he's just amazing. And yeah, I hate him so much because I've pulled so much and I did not get him. So I hate this unit.
It's alright. I didn't pull him either. We can both cry about it later once the podcast
Yeah, but you know
over.
You know what, Cotton? I'm not crying because I know Charlotte is good enough, and I know that he's going to be power crept. By the time Charlotte isn't good enough, there's going to be a better magic tank. That's how I'm going to look at it.
Exactly.
Hold on.
Chow is good enough.
Yes.
I don't know JP enough, but does Pencil ever get power crept? I thought this was like the height.
He hasn't been yet, as far as I'm aware.
No, he hasn't. Yeah,
not
exactly.
really.
So this is a peak for all we know. So
But the problem is, it is the peak, but it's also, again, Charlotte is enough. So again, I'm consoling myself mostly because Cecil is really a lot more powerful than Charlotte.
But I'm being the rational person here, saying that Charlotte.
I think we really need to crush Barros' spirits here, because in reality, you can use Charlotte, but are you really living your best life?
Oh,
exactly.
man.
I mean, you can use Charlotte, but who wants to sit through 5 minutes of countering?
Yeah,
each
okay,
turn?
yeah, because I did use Charlotte's Tel Fulsanis, and like, God, those counters. Just, I made a sandwich, I came back, like she was still countering, and I was questioning what I was doing with my life at that point.
I will say that Cecil's basic attack animation is maybe the slowest thing I've ever seen. I think it's slower than King's, but thankfully he can only do normal attack counters 3 times per turn.
I would like, okay, so if we just take a step back and we're imagining that actually new players are playing this game, I wouldn't pull for Cecil because he's still on a double rainbow banner, and that's a terrible banner to pull on as a new player. Unfortunately, he is really, really strong, but it is a terrible banner to pull on.
I mean, he could be really, really strong because in the Japan version of the game, he was a fast unit, which means you can't off-banner him using X stickers, and you can't UOC him. So it's probably just a way to make people pull on the double rainbow banner bait.
Yeah,
I would recommend for a new player to pull for him. Like, yes, the other unit on the banner is very underwhelming, but I think Cecil himself is so strong, and he can even sub into other roles. Like, he can serve as a breaker, not the best breaker, but he can do it. If you happen to not have a breaker, or let's say you pull 2 copies of Charlotte, then Cecil becomes your breaker until you get a good breaker. He can buff elemental resists, and that huge general mitigation buff is just such a huge help.
Yeah, okay. Can we just like stop polishing this unit? Okay, I can't do this anymore. I can't.
But let's not like
my friend
let's
is
not
full
forget
of goddamn
Barros.
symptoms. Everyone
But
has.
Barros,
I know you want to.
You can't forget that Cecil probably has the best CG out of the whole game coming forward. Like, I think Cecil literally has the best CG animation even going forward. So like, you're missing out not just on a great unit, but you're missing out on the best CG animation.
I'm just hoping I will pull that piece of shit like off banner, or maybe we're gonna have a reroll tank banner in the future, and then it might actually be. Actually, no, we won't because we get the support banner, right?
It's okay. You just pull Charlotte off them.
Yeah. No, I mean, like I have Charlotte, I have her STMR. I'm good for all trials. It's just that I would like to have C. Okay, never mind. Let's stop talking about C. It's enough. It's enough. We've talked about this unit for too long. So yeah, let's talk about one cool thing that happened this week, which is a tiny little leak that might or might not be true. Have all of you seen it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Signacio.
Yeah, so it's actually like, it seems like that there was supposed to be an event in Taiwan, right, that got cancelled, and it seems to be that we got some leaks off of that event showcasing a Ignacio and Sieghard double unit. There was also another double, but who cares, like Ignacio and Sieghard, right?
That is all we need, right? Yeah.
I hate the summer units from last year. Summer Fid and Summer Silka are just, their CGs are incredibly stupid. But I think that if Gumi balances it out by giving us a ridiculous over-the-top CG animation of Ignacio and Sieghard just like shirtless and flexing at each other, that would be
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
everything is forgiven. Everything is forgiven. Like,
They'll balance each other out.
because I still turn off my LB animations if I'm using Fit on the bus. Like, no joke, because I
Yeah.
don't want anyone watching my phone and going like, holy shit, what is this dude doing? He's 36 years old, bald. What the fuck is he watching? Like, that's people's reaction.
Imagine when they release Feed in the Chinese server. Can you imagine all the lens flare that's going to be in the CG animation?
Yeah, that's actually true.
I
You're
think
not
they'll-
gonna recognize it.
I think they're just going to pull a Brandt and just never release it in China.
Yeah.
We should have a whole podcast on Gabrant, by the way, just as an aside.
Okay, but I just want to like first of all, we need to agree on how to pronounce Ignacio and Sieghard. Okay, so we all know Ignacio is called Big Ignacio, right? And Sieghard is Sieghard, right? So the unit is called Big Hard. Are we agreed on that?
Bro.
There's so many ways that can go wrong, okay?
Go wrong or go right.
Yes, definitely go right.
Depending on the audience, okay? Depending on the audience.
And as
Yo, if Apple Podcast wants to like mute us, this is probably a great reason. Oh,
no,
they're saying big
we
heart
have
all
the
the time.
explicit tag. It's okay. We have the explicit tag. We can swear as much as we want. It's all fine.
And Hazard can't stop us.
Yeah, Hazard can't stop us because he's not here.
You
Right
hear
now.
that, Hazard?
You
But,
do realize I'm a mod, right?
Yeah, but like we have our own podcast channel. It's unmoderated. It's basically heaven on earth. But what I want to say is, okay, I actually have my hopes really high up for this unit because, as I've been saying constantly, I really like using finishers. I kind of envision Big Hard being a unit that is an excellent physical tank that can also AoE imbue and imperil and maybe even support chain, like all in one. I really hope that happens.
But we know
Oh,
for sure that
plot
this was a
twist.
GL event, right? Like this wasn't a JP
No.
Valentine's thing.
No,
Okay.
they have different units for Valentine's.
Luca and Nicole, which we are
Yeah.
expecting to
Getting that?
get instead.
Yeah, and they have a new unit right now, right? There was a JP post recently that showcased a new Valentine's unit, right?
I really hope that they're good, but historically, double units have not been. Fid
What do you mean?
Fid was great. Silka was, like even
Yeah.
in JP, they used her for Moon, but I think that's mostly because they didn't really have any halfway decent mages. And in GL, she just wasn't that good for that trial compared to the other mages because Silka is single targeting. You really want AoE for Moon. Then we have other double units that have come out, like Holy Knight Amelia and Amelia were.
Yeah, but they don't count because they had their Prism in the shop, and those are always trash units.
Yeah, but in JP they had Lin and Jake and Fina and Dark Fina, and as far as I know, both of those were pretty terrible.
Paladin
Fina
Forum.
and Dark Fina is just a SDMR. You just pull for the SDMR.
I mean, it makes sense that it's difficult to design a unit that's a double unit because you want both kits to reflect. And for FID, it just worked really, really well because you got two units that worked really well together. But
Yeah,
I think like the same could be here. Like I imagine an AoE cover that simultaneously imbues fire to all of your team and imperils the boss by 140%. That's what Big Heart is all about.
Move, and he becomes a defense scaling chainer.
I'm very concerned that they're going to do something really dumb. Like he's just going to be a GL reskin of Gabrant for some insane reason.
Yeah, they've done that.
That sounds
before,
great.
Actually. Let's see.
I know Shadow said this, but I have crazy conspiracy theories about why we never got Gabrant that I would love to discuss at some point on a future episode.
All right, next episode is all going to be all about Muspel's conspiracy theories. Like a dude at Gumi is sick, and also why Gabrant didn't come to GL. So wait, there was another like nobody really actually fucking cares, but there was another leak for a Valentine's unit. It was Sakura and Ayaka, right?
Yes, the Sakura Ayaka double unit.
Right, exactly. Which is actually adorable because I actually like both Sakura and Ayaka. So
Okay,
like I'm gonna lose all my money.
I think this actually has better potential than Ignacio. But
wait,
just
really?
because
a healer and a finisher mage? What?
Hold on. Sakura's kit wasn't always a chainer or a finisher. Like there were support elements to that Sakura that you had with CG Sakura that wasn't present at the time with other healers. So if somehow Ayaka and Sakura's kits, like the good parts of their kits, right? Ayaka is healing and her, her barriers and then stop resistance and then Sakura's support side come together really well, you might have a really top tier healer.
Maybe, but historically the double units have always been showcasing the
main roles of each unit.
Yeah, the main roles. And I mean, Sakura's always been about quick Final Thunder, right? That has been her thing. So I'm kind of suspecting it's going to be a finisher thing for her.
Spirit scaling finisher?
That could actually be interesting, though, to be honest.
Yeah, if it's an SPR scaling finisher with a healer, that's actually one of the best ways to bring a finisher.
Yeah.
I mean, they've tried that before. It's never worked out great. Part of that is because they haven't really given them good modifiers. But I think that...
I mean, if they can give them similar mods as Shenwu.
I think part of the problem is that Gumi seems... And Alum too, I guess, are afraid of really big modifiers even when they're necessary for the unit to be competitive. Like, you very rarely see them go above 40 or 50x, even when a unit would need like 100 or 150x to be even.
Yeah, but I have a conspiracy theory on why that's that. Because, and I'm just going to share that right now, it's because they don't actually do math for their units. What they do is they look at modifiers, and that's how they balance units, but they don't realize there's a bit more to their game than just the modifiers.
Who remembers the unnerved Esther?
Yeah. Like, but seriously, like, this is not even a conspiracy theory. We've seen so much proof they have no idea of how much damage a unit actually does at most points. We just, like, they just set modifiers and hope everything's going to turn out great.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I'm not 100% sure how bought in I am to the fact that this leak is happening. But I do hope it happens, and like I said, I really hope that we get a CG Ignacio and Sighart.
I mean, like,
when is our next YouTube video due? I think it's soon, isn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, this is going to be news on Tuesday, if anything, right? Like, this can't be later.
Or maybe there won't be a YouTube video because you're supposed to be announced during the Fan Fest, the Taiwan thing.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, so
it might be announced by the time this podcast is released. I'm not sure when it'll come out.
Yeah, I mean, like these units. First of all, like if you look at the sprites, they're really well made. So either a fan really put their heart and soul into making fake sprites, which is really cool. Kudos to you, whoever you are.
Who doesn't want the teddy bear on?
Maybe they won't release
a video. Teddy bear?
Maybe they won't release a video of them on YouTube because it would violate the YouTube terms of service.
Yes, let's hope that. Let's hope that's actually the case. No, but seriously, I really hope this happens. Okay, so should we move on? We have another segment left to talk about.
And we also have a special guest for you today, which we'll announce at a later time. But I wanted to get right into some of the weird things that have happened this week with Gumi, specifically the February bundle fiasco that's kind of been all over Reddit. Were any of you unfortunate enough to have purchased this bundle?
No.
I was actually sad when I saw that it was a mistake. I was half expecting it to be a mistake, to be honest. But I was kind of planning to buy a couple of them to get like a chance at more of the old New Year's units. But I didn't actually.
Yeah, it was all over Reddit, and I didn't buy it either. But apparently, a bunch of people were mad at it, and one of the people that works for Gumi was apparently kind of throwing some other employees under the bus as far as what they were supposed to be doing with it. So it's just kind of a funny situation altogether.
Wait, how did they throw them under the bus? I missed that part.
Oh, this is just something I kind of heard on a Twitch stream, but basically they told him, hey, this needs to be changed because this was the January like New Year's bundle, data, and they didn't switch it over, and so it ended up screwing it up, and they had to redo the whole thing.
Oh wow!
But I mean, what I think the biggest problem here, obviously, it's just like a data mistake, and many people suspect it as well on Reddit, suspecting that this isn't the true bundle because it's actually too good to be true. But what I think is actually bad is kind of that we had the same thing as with the Esther situation, where a lot of people went in and bought the bundle blindly on the day it was nerfed, the same way that people pulled for Esther on the day before knowing she was nerfed.
But that sounds like a people problem instead of Gumi problem.
I mean, technically, yes, but they're not making it easy, right? It's kind of like people went in expecting this bundle. They've bought it for 2 days straight. They just bought it again without reading. And then, wait, only 100 lapis, right? And there was no compensation for that.
Yeah, I think you got to warn people. I mean, ultimately, it's your responsibility to read. But if you've read something and then it changes and there's no notice, there's nothing, telling you.
Yeah, that's my point. Like, if there was a pop-up saying, like, hey, the bundle changed, that's one thing. That's fine. But there wasn't. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I know Reddit kind of beat that horse to death, but I did just want to point it out because that was not the only gaffe this week that Gumi engaged in. They also accidentally released some unit enhancements for the Valkyrie profile units, as well as Jaego, everyone's favorite trash pull.
Oh man, I was so happy to see that because I secretly love the Valkyrie profile units. So I'm kind of hoping that it's an indication that we're actually going to get those enhancements.
Yeah, I know JP has them, I think, and had those almost exact same enhancements, if I remember correctly. I don't remember reading through all the data because I don't have any of those units, and I only have one Jaego, so it wasn't really affecting me, but I know a bunch of people who actually went through and enhanced those units and then were refunded later.
Yeah. I mean, when do we know exactly when in the timeline Valkyrie profile got their enhancements? Like, where are we at in comparison to that?
I'm not so sure. I think
doesn't really matter. I guess
really behind on enhancements in general, right? Tifa enhancements are missing. Your LFM enhancements are missing.
Yeah, that's kind of why I was happy to see, or happy or worried. I don't know how to put it because they did revert them because we're really missing latents and enhancements, and I don't know what Gumi's plan is. That's actually worrying me because I like when old units become usable and relevant again.
But at the same time, it's kind of weird because their Glex units have been getting the enhancements and latents. Like, you know what? Recently, we got how Chin just became nothing to like one of the best supports in the game. Our Fervia one day just randomly got her enhancements and latents. So it's like, I think Gumi is just lost as we are.
I'm a little worried actually on these because, for example, like I've been waiting for news in JP about Beowulf and Ultima's enhancements because those are some of my favorite units. And it's been almost 2 years now since they were released in JP and they still don't have enhancements. And I don't even think that they're the oldest units that don't have them yet. And we're approaching a year on global for those units. They were released last April. So
but I think worried. that's just a commercial thing though, because especially when it's collabs, it's going to be whenever that collab is relevant to license in again, right? So unfortunately, I was surprised that VP actually got a second run in JP where they did get their enhancements. And that's why I'm afraid that we won't, because there won't really be a point of rerunning it here, right?
There's a few units now that we don't have, like 7-star Explorer Eileen or Rico or Adam Jensen, all those units we've been patiently waiting for a long time.
Yeah, but they have actually confirmed that Explorer Eileen is not getting their enhanced or a 7-star. So
Wait, really? They confirmed that?
yeah, I was in one of the videos, like a question and answer thing, where they said that no, she's not. Well, I mean, obviously it's a weasel answer. It's like we're not planning to give this unit 7 stars, so of course they can, but I mean,
for them to actually go ahead and say we're not is pretty significant, because usually they just say, well, maybe soon TM or something like that.
But the thing is, this is a Tomb Raider collab, right? And the chances of rerunning a Tomb Raider collab are low. I mean, abysmally, right? Because there's no new Tomb Raider game even coming out soon. So, right?
Right. We did get confirmation of Rico, though, I believe, and we didn't get it either way on the Deus Ex Machina units. The Adam Jensen and Victor Marchenko, we don't know yet for sure.
Yeah, Rico was promised, so maybe he'll come around at some point in time.
I think one of the things that we like, I don't know how to say this, but like, we shouldn't really take Gumi's word for word anymore. Like, it's been a while since they've like, what was that? What was that trial of the Vengeance trials? They were supposed to be monthly last anniversary, but we've got
but Muspel had an interesting theory on that, though. Wasn't it him or was it you, Hazard, that said that, like, suspecting that the dude making those is actually sick
or
I
fired?
think Muswell brought it up at first. I think he might be right, because there's been just a little bit of a delay on those.
But I'm kind of suspecting they don't really know where to take their game, because so many things have been weird. Like we had the new LPPP system that came in, right? And it was also not well received. And all of a sudden, this nice mechanic of old units tied to a series getting their latent and becoming relevant again, sometimes actually really powerful in a couple of cases, like DKC, right? And I think Jekt also became pretty powerful, and several others. But that hasn't happened. Like, this nice logical connection to the old series and the series boss battle and their latents is just not happening. And that's such a waste. I don't know why they're not doing that. It feels so strange to me.
I think they're way too sensitive to people's reactions. Is one of the things. I really like Gumi's change to latent abilities, disregarding the Gil. The Gil thing was stupid, but like the whole idea that you don't need to beat the SPB to get the ability is actually really a good change. But for some reason, all of Reddit was mad last year when that change happened. So Gumi got hypersensitive about it, and then they did a 180, and now we're at a point where this system is like at a standstill, and we're not really getting what they intentioned, because they're too sensitive about the audience reaction.
Yeah, but I mean, like, that still doesn't explain the old units not getting their latents, because they could still do that with the system they have now, I'd say. Like, there's nothing really stopping them unless they actually have a different plan, and I have no idea what this different plan is. Maybe they're just testing to see if... Because, okay, here is... So, tinfoil hats on, right? But some of these units that got so powerful in JP obviously dropped the pull rate, right? Because, like, all of a sudden, DKC is a meta damage dealer, and everyone has a 7-star DKC that played the game for a while. So I'm guessing they're maybe experimenting to see what happens if we don't bring these old units up again. Will we see higher pulls on new banners?
Wasn't DKC the first, like, good latent unit anyways? Or, like, before that...
the first overpowered, I would say. I think plenty of them were decent.
But even Gladio and Prompto were pretty bad. Even, like, it didn't bring them to a level where you would
I
want
think
them.
In general, Final Fantasy 15 got shafted a bit, yeah. But there were, like, I think, for instance, Tifa's enhancements brought her up, and I'm going to just bundle up Layton's enhancements into the same bucket because they're technically the same thing. Tifa's enhancements got her back up to being a relevant damage dealer when her enhancements came out, and the same was for many. I mean, they were never top of the top, so to speak, but they were still good. And that's something that's nice, like, revisiting this old unit, even though it does 20% less damage than the meta. nice to clear some trials.
Yeah, overall, I've been pretty impressed actually with enhancements and latents overall. But I agree.
For the units that got them.
That's the problem. Is I think JP had a better system with the latents out of the box, and Global had an awful system. They've since improved that significantly, but they're leaving some units in the dust, I think, and that was a disappointment to me at least.
Yeah, I'd definitely like to see some more latents for the old units.
But again, it's not like they completely left down every old unit, right? The global exclusive old units have gotten them, like Chow, Ang, Frivia, like these, and it's not like it's usually the JP ones that we're missing.
Yeah, they've been pretty consistent with the global exclusive ones. Oh, Shadow, you did mention something I want to touch on is basically don't trust Gumi's word ever, because that kind of leads me to the third, what I would call a gaffe that they did this week. They released the unit popularity contest results in which Elena got first place, Esther got second, and Ling got third place. Now, I just want to say that I've basically lost faith in humanity on all sides of this because...
Okay, this is going to be interesting.
This is such a tragedy because the way this was presented, if you actually read like the fine print of this contest, it wasn't a unit popularity contest. It was, hey, which of these units, these global exclusive units that have been released, which one would you like to see as a new kind of reskinned 7-star unit? And so the two units that made the most sense in that context were Ling and Yan, because they were 4-star units. So we've never had a 7-star of those units. Whereas Elena and Esther were some of the worst units you could vote for because
I'm just gonna
we don't even have
right
enhancements yet for these. We don't have enhancements. We don't have latents. We haven't even seen their full potential in the original unit.
Yeah, but
So
you're
guess who
thinking with
wins?
your brain, right? You're thinking with your brain and not your heart, okay? Obviously, like, Elena deserved it, okay? I'm just gonna say that because
No,
no. You're wrong. Okay?
she is a trash sprite, dude. I know I'm in the vast minority.
Have you seen her animation? Like she pulls her hair back behind her ear. You know what? I'm just not gonna talk to you anymore.
No, I will say that the CG is good. I like the CG, but I think the unit sprite needs a lot of work. But maybe, hey, the fact that she won, maybe they'll get it right this time, right? I mean, that's the silver lining here.
Yeah,
but the appropriate unit to vote for was Ling or Yan. Those are the only two units you could have voted for. But here's why I blame Gumi, is because they framed it as a unit popularity contest, which is which unit is your favorite, which is a very different question than which unit would you like to see reskinned, right?
Absolutely. And you know what? They actually got the result they were looking for, because if we look at the page views for the wiki, Elena wins by a landslide compared to any other unit in the game. AK Rain is kind of catching up, but so obviously they got the results they were asking for. They framed it as a popularity contest. They got the most popular unit elected as number one. Easy.
Yeah, she's a great unit and she's super popular. It's like the CG unit, global exclusive. Like, there's no way she wouldn't have won. I mean, it was obvious. So that's why I was disappointed. They should have framed it in a better way rather than just a unit popularity contest.
I think they framed it.
I'm getting on my soapbox.
I think they framed it like this on purpose, just to get the results that they were exactly looking for, which is, what are people passionate about? And
yeah, I mean, like they want to know what people will pay for.
Yeah,
to pull, and that's why they wanted to know, like, what is your favorite unit? Oh, you like Elena? Here is Magic Tank Elena, better than Cecil. Now pull.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Wait, Cecil?
It depends. It's Cecil in basically every other place except the United States. In the United States, it's Cecil.
Huh. Okay.
Okay, so we are really excited to have our first guest on the podcast. This is a guest who all of you basically know if you play FFBE with any regularity or have ever struggled with a trial. Today we welcome Sinzar. He does amazing work for the wiki. Basically any trial wiki page that you see has been significantly worked on by him. He posts great YouTube videos for clears. He has budget clears. He basically, when you remember when Tel Fulsanis was going to come out and Shally was like, "Oh, you guys will never be able to beat this. This is really hard." Everyone was like, "Yeah, well, we got Sinzar. It's going to be over in 10 minutes." And you guys know how that went.
Yeah.
So without further ado, I just want to introduce Sinzar. Welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. So yeah, I'm Sinzar. I've been, playing FFBE since day one. I do, Reddit threads for trials, the wiki work, etc. YouTube videos, and that's pretty much my absolute favorite thing about Brave Exvius is it's all about the trials. It's it's what I do.
And we are all grateful for it, let me tell you.
Yeah, I just have to say I'm so stoked to have you here. Your videos helped me so many times, and your threads are amazing. So just like, wow, such a. I'm starstruck. Gonna be honest.
This is better than Ariana Grande. I mean, she had to cancel at the last minute, so we
No. We
apologies for
canceled
that.
Ariana Grande because Sinzar said yes, because this is such a great moment.
I actually was a little worried that Sinzar would not come on the podcast when we released our bonus episode, because I kind of made fun of we were in a
Yeah, you were
pronunciation
being a
thing.
bit of a dick. So
I know. I had to
you'd,
reach
like,
out and
scale it back.
apologize, and I have to pay Sinzar many thousands of lapis in order to get him on the podcast.
Lapis. Seriously?
Zing.
I'm glad to be here.
I just told you to not be a dick, and then you just ruined it immediately.
I'm sorry, it was teed up for me. I apologize to all children and blind people.
And for all of you that haven't actually seen the Sinzar videos, you're missing out on a huge thing. So you just need to open your YouTube and enter Sinzar and like watch. Yeah, whatever. Okay, dude, calm down. And like watch some of the best videos, especially if you're struggling with trials.
So we actually had a perfect re-release of the Tel Fulsanis trial this week, because Gumi assured us that this time it's actually going to be hard. So we wanted to talk to Sinzar about how this new trial kind of differs from the last one, and if it's actually hard. Spoiler alert, it's probably not.
So the trial, I would say, is hard if you rate the trial versus everything else in the game. I would say it's probably one of the hardest trials currently available in global. Maybe the Wicked Moon is about equal. But as far as do I think the trial is like as hard as they promoted it to be, probably not, because people went in there as soon as the trial released, and I think the first clear was like 15 minutes after the server came up. So you can't really say the trial is the hardest ever. People are beating it in 15 minutes, mostly blind. So hardest ever, maybe not. Is it hard? Definitely. But I still really enjoyed it, and I'm so glad that they're doing global exclusive trials that are much harder than the trials we already know are coming from the Japanese server, just because those have been beaten by players and like dissected and figured out, and by the time it gets to global, it's like we know what to do. So having like a new global exclusive trial that we've never seen before is really great, and I'm so glad they're doing this.
Couldn't agree more. I've always said that two of my favorite trials of all time were the original Malboro trial, because nobody knew it was coming, and also the Halloween, what was it, that where they had the RNG boss, the Skeleton King. That was hilarious.
That was great.
Which one was that? I don't even remember it.
It's the one that drained all of your MP, and the boss's attack power basically was based on how much MP he had. So he would suck all your MP to full power and then just nuke you to death.
Skeleton King, was that a vampire?
No, this is like 2 years ago.
This was almost 3 years ago, I think.
Huh.
That's a while ago.
Too far back for me to remember, so yeah.
But that was really fun. This is back when Ilias was like the MVP of that trial, because he could elixir the whole party.
And Zargoboth, because Zargoboth could actually dodge tank and support your party.
That was a really fun one. So we've already gone off on a tangent, but for Tel Fulsanis, I actually looked up on Reddit the other day, because I didn't have a chance to do it on day one, but I saw that there was this kind of weird re-raise trick that you could kind of nullify the disease of the second fight. You guys heard about that?
No, tell me about it, because I haven't heard about it.
So the second boss, basically, when you get him down, when you kill him, he imperils your ability to resist disease, and then he diseases the entire party. And the problem with that is when you go to the third boss, the final boss, if anyone has disease, they get zombie put on them, which basically, if you try and heal them or re-raise them, they take damage or die.
Mm-hmm.
And so someone figured out, the way that you get around it normally, and I'm sure Sinzar explained this on the wiki, but is you have to use an LB, a limit burst, 5 turns in a row after he's at like 5% or something. But you can get around it if you just use Carbuncle and reflect on your party, and then you cast re-raise on a member of your party, which reflects it onto the boss, and then you kill the boss. And then the boss, it like the animation starts to move up, like the old Kefka fight. It starts to move up like it's going to the next boss, but then you get the boss at 80% health, whose head is barely coming over the bottom of the screen, and basically the AI is broken. You just kill him again, and you take disease off yourself in the meantime.
Yeah, but I mean that exploit, the only thing it does is buys you 5 LB uses, right?
Yeah, but those can be valuable.
Yeah, but it's like it seems such a huge hassle for that, to be honest.
Well, it's also saving you 5 turns because I think it's 5 LBs over 5 turns.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
the big thing. It's just a time saver. But Sinzar, you didn't use that strategy, did you? You did the 5 LBs over 5 turns thing, right?
I did. I saw people talking about the re-raise thing, and I looked at the AI, and I know this may be like an unpopular opinion, but I'm pretty sure that's like an actual glitch in the coding. It's not supposed to work that way. That's just a bad coding for Gumi. They didn't expect anyone to re-raise the boss itself. They didn't code for it, and it breaks the script, and that's why it works.
That's so
And
great.
if people want to do that, that's totally cool and all, but just my personal viewpoint, I'd rather beat trials, the proper way and avoid bugs. So I didn't use that, but it is, available to people if they want to do it until it's fixed.
Now, I will say the last time this trial was released, there was another strat on the final boss that you could basically turtle for a few turns and it would kill itself. And that's something that you figured out, I believe, right, Sinzar?
I did not. I can't.
I'm going to give you credit anyway.
I can't think of the guy's name right now, but it wasn't me. Someone else figured it out, and I used it. That's, I guess, technically speaking, probably was a bug. But at the time, that, according to the AI, that was specifically how it was coded, which was how people figured it out. Because it was in the AI. Like, it was specifically said, after 10 turns, kill yourself. So people figured that out, and we used it. Now, we know now, Gumi, I guess, didn't mean to do that, but they did. So I did make a video of that because I didn't think it was a bug. I thought it was just a strange design decision.
Yeah, because it made sense also because the amount of turns you had to survive depended on how many red sigils you had up. So like if you had 2 red, it was only 9 turns. But if you had 1 blue, then it was 18 or something like that. I don't remember the numbers exactly.
Well, I remember actually when the AI first came out, I think I pinged you, Sinzar, and I was like, what's going on here? Like, what are all these weird things? And you were like, oh, it's kind of bad code right now. Let me delete it for now, and we'll figure it out later.
Oh, you're talking about the very first initial release of the AI when the code was in, but the trial was not in, and they actually changed it slightly the week later when it actually came out. Yeah.
Okay. They had like black equals 1, black equals 2, like all these weird kind of things. And I'm not tech savvy at all, so I apologize to everyone who knows this language. Yeah,
the AI is kind of hard to read, but once you figure it out, you can. And it was confusing when they first released it, and it kind of makes sense why it was delayed, because it seems like it was rushed out the door maybe for Christmas, for the holidays. The bosses up high said, get this trial out now, ready or not. They did. It clearly was not finished because there was multiple bugs, and they re-released it later when they got those bugs fixed, which is what we have currently today, although they missed another bug with the re-raise strat.
Yeah. But Sinzar, I want to ask you for your opinion on something that's really grinding my gears when it comes to FFBE, because FFBE is this game that has a lot of rich mechanics and a lot of potential, but boss AI and how trials work is a complete mystery to most players, and going in blind can be more or less torture. Like, for instance, discovering that you're supposed to use 5 limit bursts, 1 per turn, of the 5 last turns of the I don't remember what the second phase is called.
Maw of Malice.
Maw of Malice, thank you. Is like the only message you get is like Maw of Malice unleashes a terrible cry or something like that. And that's all you get. And now you have to figure out that it's not just LBs, it's 1 LB per turn for 5 turns. And you're a trial guy. You're really good at trials. do you like going in blind on trials and trying to detect these things?
Something like that is so obscure. I don't think anyone would realistically ever figure that out, like without a data mine. I think the reason they put that in is the developers have realized that after 3 years, as soon as they put out a trial, 5 minutes later, it's been data mined. Everyone knows what's going on. So now they just design trials with that already taken into account. Because, like you said, there is absolutely no warning, no indication. The little Moogle tips at the beginning doesn't say anything about the limit burst. No one would figure that out by accident. So they had to have just said, we know it's going to be data mined. We know it's going to add challenge. Put it in. The data miners will tell people. They'll know how to do it. Because that is probably one of the most obscure mechanics in the trial we've ever seen is after 5%, use 5 limits across 5 turns without killing him. And this guy dies in like 1 hit from a real damage dealer at 5%.
But what's really bothering me is that there is actually no reason at all for them to not just release that information to all players and not rely on data mines, because like the players that don't read Reddit, the players that don't watch Sinzar videos, I don't believe they exist, but they will never ever be able to beat the trial. Even if they beat phase 1 and then phase 2, they'll just keep wiping without having any idea what they're doing until I guess they release the zombie removing healer that's coming out in like recently came out in JP.
I think the problem with it is that you have Gumi at the same time. I think tacitly have a tacit understanding that people are relying on data mine and relying on unofficial data, and then at the same time they come out saying, "Hey, don't you dare rely on unofficial data. You have to rely on our data." I think that's just kind of two-faced, to be honest.
Yeah, or silly, to be honest.
So, if I had to play devil's advocate in this, I think if we think back to old school Final Fantasy, a lot of those bosses, there is a lot of secrets within Final Fantasy where if you do really ultra specific things, that's how you either beat the boss or unlock secret endings or stuff like that. And I talk about this because like I remember thinking that the Final Fantasy VII Emerald weapons, some of them are really obscure unless you have a guide to get you there. And I think the whole idea that they're not giving us all the information in the trials is maybe they're relying on that old school gaming philosophy where you don't give out all the information, you let the gamer figure it out. But that doesn't work with FFBE, especially in the modern era where we can get data mines, where we can get the AI.
Yeah,
and
but it also can't be this obscure, right?
And it makes it even more, I guess, worse by the fact that we're limited to using our energy. Like for us, it doesn't matter. We have so much energy and energy pots going around. But for new players, like one trial might just be like, oh my goodness, now I have to wait like another 5 hours to play again, which really is just bad game design.
Yeah, and you also have to wait for your friend list. But they actually have an example of this being executed well. If you remember one of the MK bosses, right? We're actually fighting the Mog King, if you remember, and on the final difficulty phase that was the only one you could unlock, there was a secret mechanic to unlocking a secret Moogle King fight. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
And that was actually well done, in my opinion, because that was something you absolutely could discover for yourself. Like all of a sudden you got these secret abilities and you could just play around with them and see what happens.
I think it's difficult because you want the game to be complicated enough, but also simple enough, like at the same time. So you don't want to have to rely on data mine, but you also don't want it to be too simple where someone can just stumble into mechanics. I don't know. It's kind of a hard balance to strike, I would say.
It definitely is. One of the things that I think gets really annoying is especially when trials have really specific requirements. Like if you remember back to Icebird had a really specific requirement in that if you don't survive turn 1 with this specific elemental resists, you won't pass the game. Now I think that's fine in a regular Final Fantasy game where you don't have to go through gacha to get the equipment for it. But in a game where you have to go through gacha to get the equipment for it, I feel like that's just a really unintuitive way of making the game harder. There's still a way to make the game hard without having to make sure that people have the right, like a gear check for it. And that was like Elemental Tetris for a while, I think. Like it was mostly just a gear check, not how well you know the game. Versus, I think Tel Fulsanis is a more better telling of how well do you know the mechanics of the game to beat this trial.
I do like this one overall because there's 3 different fights that are very, very different. I do like that. And you have to string them together in a way where, the first one at the end, AoE MP drains you. The second one, AoE diseases you. I think those are fun overall. But it kind of leads me into a question I wanted to ask Sinzar, which is being a trial guy and being so many people rely on you for these trials. What's something that you'd like to see in a future trial, either that's already been implemented in JP or something that maybe hasn't been yet?
Well, that's a hard question to answer on the spot.
Sorry about that.
I'm not sure. I would like increased challenge, but I would like increased challenge in an optional way. Something like do the trials as they are, from the Japanese server as they've been doing for global versions, but add an extra difficulty with just the challenge ramped up through the roof. Give it no rewards. Basically did this with Tel Fulsanis. This is what I've been asking for. It's a really hard trial. The only thing it gives is a cosmetic badge. People that don't like the huge challenge can completely ignore this. They're not missing anything important. So basically, what they did, just keep doing it. So, for example, the next trial, that should come out with Gumi's schedule, you never know. But the next trial that should come out is the Demon Wall. It's got a lot of hype around it about being so hard. It's truthfully, for a veteran player, it's not going to be that hard when it comes out. Like as soon as the trial comes out, you're going to have 30 clears posted on Reddit in the first hour. I would like Gumi to release that trial as is, and then release, like, let's say, Legendary Demon Wall, and make it way harder. Don't give it any rewards, and let people struggle against it. That would make me personally happy.
That's actually a great example. So, so looking at the Demon Wall, you have some insight into it. What would make it a very hard trial, though? Would you just bump up the numbers, or is there something else?
You could bump up the number. That's the easy way, and probably the least work for Gumi. It would still increase the challenge. It wouldn't be that interesting because at that point it just becomes who has the better gear. They would have to make it really more fun. They would have to add mechanics. So they'd have to add like extra attacks, extra things you've got to account for. Maybe the boss, imperils or maybe the boss dispels you before imperiling your petrify resist and then petrifying you. So you can't just ignore that mechanic anymore. Because as it is, if you've got like Volca, Len, or whatever, you can ignore his petrify. It won't ever get you. They could maybe change that for the legendary version where someone is always petrified and it adds more pressure for you per turn, things you have to deal with. So that they can add challenge without just making it, hit for 3,000 more damage or something.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more to that because obviously FFBE is such a rich game that has so many different units that can do so many different things. So just one of the charms with Tel Fulsanis for me was that there was these specific things you had to solve, the specific problems you had to solve in your party, and there were a lot more of those than there were in a regular trial. You had to resolve how to restore your MP. You had to resolve how to stall and use 5 LBs, how to seal properly, at the same time still having a very meta level defense on your entire party, right? And it's such a shame they don't do more of that.
I agree. I think Tel Fulsanis, the final version of Tel Fulsanis, or as of yet, is probably one of the best trials they've ever released because it gives you so many checkboxes you have to put for team building, which is amazing. It really stretches like all the options of what every unit can do. You've got like really dangerous attacks that can't just be covered and ignored. You've got like mana drain. You've got all kind of elements to deal with. You've got just huge incoming damage for your tank. The boss itself is very tanky. You can't just one-shot it anymore, although I'm sure people have. It's a lot harder, at least. It's just all the cool things about Trials put into one, and I really like that. I'm glad they did it.
Yeah, we did have an interesting discussion just before where I complained heavily about the RNG in especially Phase 1, but also a little bit in Phase 2. It's not as prominent. where for you, those of you that don't know it, if in phase 1 the boss enters a so-called killing stance, he can still randomly pull 2 or 3 AoEs and wipe your party. But Sinzar, you actually didn't agree, and you said something that I actually didn't consider. Could you tell me why you didn't agree with me?
Sure. I did agree that it is random. Sometimes people call things random in trials. They're not really random. It's actually scripted. This is true random. It is literally a percent chance per turn to use killing stance and then followed by multiple AoEs that are now buffed by killing stance. This will deal tons of damage, and if you're not prepared for it, it'll just wipe out your party pretty much on the spot. There's a lot of complaints about that. I
Well,
don't
that
think
explains why I died.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't really think that's a problem because there are solutions to deal with that. For example, one solution, which is maybe more of like high-end players, but if you can gear your entire team in evasion, that threat is now removed. So you've solved that problem. Another option is something like using a summoner type unit and filling the Esper gauge every single turn and summoning Golem every single turn. Golem gives 70% physical damage reduction that's stacked with general damage reduction. So with Golem and a good general mitigation buff and a defense buff, you can get Killing Stance into Dark Depression and still survive. So there's another solution. Something else is something like Emperor Fu, the new unit. He can do 3 stacks of Mirage per turn if you're filling the Esper gauge every round. So there's just all these options to deal with this problem, which is why it's really cool. It's not just a guaranteed you're dead. This is a really dangerous mechanic. It's really hard to fix or get around, but there are plenty of options to deal with it. And I think that's really cool.
And that really opened my eyes because I never saw it that way. I was just super annoyed because I was forcing this weird Noctis run that actually worked in the end. And I kept wiping for like huge bad luck on the first one. But I never thought of it that way, that it actually is preventable. But one thing I want to say is the dumb thing about it, is first of all, the punishment is huge. Like if you're not prepared for it, it's huge. It is relatively hard to mitigate, but it's also pretty easy to just try trial until it doesn't happen, which is what I did. I just tried, like on my 7th run, I actually got through it, and then it was fine.
I just had my damage dealers die because of that mechanic and then just had to raise them and keep going. It wasn't too bad, but I didn't understand why I was dying at the time.
But wasn't that only the first fight? I think the first fight is rather easy. It's the third fight that everybody has a problem with, right?
Yeah, no. I mean, like the first fight is easy, but you can still get annihilated with the proper combo. Like 2 or 3 Dark Depressions after a killing stance. I had 3 once. You're done.
Yeah, it's a bad time. Actually, it sounds like Sinzar, you really, really like this trial, and thanks you for explaining the reasons why. I actually also wanted to ask you, what got you into FFBE in the first place, and kind of what keeps you going? Like, what excites you about it?
The way I got into it originally is my brother played Brave Frontier. This is like 6 years ago, and he convinced me to try Brave Frontier. So I did. I picked up Brave Frontier, played it for like a year. I eventually reached the end game, was doing like the end game trials in Brave Frontier. But a lot of like the strategies in that game revolved, or kind of like Brave Exvius, they revolved around limited time equipment or units that I didn't have because I started so late. But I really enjoyed the game. So when Gumi announced they were making a new version or a new game similar to Brave Frontier, but was also based around Final Fantasy, which I'm a huge fan of, I was like, this is amazing. I can start a new game. I can get in on the ground floor. I won't be missing all this old limited stuff. And it's with Final Fantasy. It's like everything I could possibly want. So I started playing on day one, and I've just been playing ever since.
I feel that way about the War of the Visions release. I keep waiting for the global release because it's basically the battle style of Final Fantasy Tactics, which I love, but Final Fantasy based in a gacha game. So I'm really excited for that, even though I've heard kind of mixed reviews. So definitely understand the draw. I actually got into it randomly. A friend just suggested it, and I kind of had that same reaction as you.
Oh wait, you like Final Fantasy Tactics, Hazard? I never knew.
It's the best kept secret in the community, I would say.
Right.
Well, I just wanted to thank Sinzar for coming on to our podcast. I hope this isn't the last time you're on. We really appreciate you talking about the Tel Fulsanis trial, letting the listeners know a little bit more about you, what you do. If they wanted to reach you, would the best option be your YouTube page?
Pretty much, yeah. The YouTube, the videos I post, people post comments. I respond to those comments a lot. If I don't respond, I've still probably read the comment. So yeah, if you have any questions, you can post a comment, and I'll do my best to answer it for you. Also, the mega threads on Reddit about trials, you can post there, and you can either get an answer from me or one of the great community members will either answer your question or try to help. So either one of those is fine.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on, Sinzar. I really appreciate you, and we'll hope to see you again soon. And thanks for all you do for the community.
Oh, can I ask one last question before you go, Sinzar?
Sure thing.
So, since Tel Fulsanis is such an interesting trial, do you have any plans to do some weird clears? Because that, back in the day, you were also known for doing these budget clears that everyone loved. Do you have any thoughts like that?
Truthfully, I've actually already done a budget clear of the previous version of Tel Fulsanis. The only thing is, at this point, I kind of made a joke earlier that Tel Fulsanis again. We've been having Tel Fulsanis after Tel Fulsanis after Tel Fulsanis 2.5 months, and I've done probably 12 or more videos of the fight. So even though I love the trial, I'm getting kind of tired of it. So I don't know, maybe.
This is our fifth version of the same thing, I think. Or fourth version of the same thing. So I think
fixed party trials, free party trials, then the original Tel Fulsanis, right?
And then they split it, right? I remember they actually split the fight into two separate ones, and then, anyways, yeah.
Yeah, but that was first was fixed party where you didn't get to select your party, and then it was a free party where you did get to select your party, but that was still split. And then it was the original Tel Fulsanis, the one that was weak. And now we have this one, so it's the fourth, I guess.
Now just wait till the next one where we get a fourth boss, which is another version of Hasiko.
I'm actually disappointed that we didn't get a Hasiko Vengeance trial yet, but that's besides.
Do not listen to this, Gumi Spy. We do not want that.
I want more Hasiko.
It's honestly not entirely clear to me whether the original version where he killed himself was a bug or not. But
it probably is,
apparently.
Actually. It was.
Huh.
Yeah, because the bug of it was that it's a targeting bug. The thing is, it was always supposed to wipe your party, but unfortunately, it targeted itself instead. So that's why the suicide bug worked.
Poor confused Tel Fulsanis.
Yeah. So
now the re-raise bug works too, because Tel Fulsanis is just even extra confused with re-raise on it.
Yeah, but I can really see that as being a miss, though. That's just nobody ever considered the players were going to re-raise the bosses. And we actually discussed this in a later segment with our special guest, but it's really not that big of a deal. It actually saves you 5 LB uses. That's all the re-raise strat does.
Yeah, so I'd kind of like to take this opportunity to rant a little bit about Gumi's global exclusive trial design in general. Because something that we've seen a lot on these fights is that they have bosses that buff their attack and match by massive amounts, and then they'll keep attacking on that same turn. And I'm not entirely convinced that Gumi realizes how big of a damage increase that is. I think that they think that a 50% attack buff will increase damage by 50%, when in fact it's something like, I'm not actually sure how much it is, but it's a lot more than 50%.
Yeah,
and the result
200% in pace 2 actually.
Yeah, or 200% attack buff, which is just borderline unsurvivable unless everyone is defending and you evoke a golem or something.
Yeah, I mean, I can rant about the RNG bullshit of Tel Fulsanis all day because I had the worst luck, got wiped so many times thanks to that killing stance, and that's basically what happens, right? I guess you're talking about that, right?
Yeah, and it's frustrating because when you look at the trials that they've made in JP, the designers that Alum has clearly understand how to do this. Because bosses will either... Except for what?
The Scorn of the Vines. You basically get a big damage over time preemptive nuke.
Oh, yeah, I guess I haven't looked at that one. But for most of the trials, they'll either do smaller attack or magic buffs, or they'll just do a big one and then immediately end their turn. Like usually on a threshold or something. So you have a chance to respond before the boss starts to just melt your face off. But in the global exclusive
I mean,
trials,
that's actually an interesting mechanic, right?
yeah. In the global exclusive trials, we keep seeing it where either you just have to deal with random turns where the boss melts your face off, or like in the elite, not the top difficulty, but the mid difficulty version of Armageddon and Chamber of the Vengeful, the boss doesn't end his turn after buffing his attack and mage and will just murder you if you don't one-shot him.
I remember that. That was
Yeah.
so weird because it wasn't even the hardest version of the boss. The hardest version of the boss actually fixes that.
Yeah, it's clearly a case of Gumi not. I'm not sure if they just weren't paying attention when they made the middle difficulty, or if they really don't know how the mechanics work.
Yeah, listen, I've seen so much proof for them not understanding mechanics fully and just going by heart or going with their gut. So I don't know about this. And I mean, like, so what can happen on Tel Fulsanis, just to be clear, is that he can do a killing stance buff, which gives him in phase
Well,
one
not
100%.
Tel Fulsanis himself. I think it's
No,
Moth.
sorry, it's the first phase. It's Moth
Yeah.
Despair.
The first phase is the one full of RNG.
Yeah, because like what the boss is going to do is the boss can do a killing stance buff mid-turn, which gives him 100% attack, 100% magic buff, and then like go into 3 Dark Depressions, which is an AOE physical attack that does like 20 to 25k damage to each
and
of your
it pierces
units.
cover.
Yes, and it's good. Like, I had a turn where he hit it 3 times. I was like, I was actually surprised that he got to hit it 3 times because my units, like one of my units, actually survived. It was Charlotte, and like, it's still, it's yeah. I just got so angry I had to put down the phone.
It feels like somebody looked at the Titan raid from way back in the day and decided that was the model that they should use.
Oh God, do not remind me of the goddamn. Oh my God, no.
Tumult.
So many
Tumult.
tunnels. Oh my God.
Tumult.
Yeah. Ugh. Shit. But I was actually happy about this trial because, okay, so RNG apart, like I super raged at the RNG. I really don't think that has a place in a game that has mechanics like FFBE, but I actually liked the trial a lot. It was a bit difficult, not too much, but it was challenging, and it did get me to do a lot of different things. I don't have Kryla, so I actually used a evade tank Prompto as my single breaker in the fight, and it actually worked really, really well. I was super proud over Prompto delivering.
Yeah, I think Prompto he's not top tier, but he's better than a lot of people realize. But
Yeah.
you need the right gear to really make him shine, and even then, there are better options.
Yeah, but it was like, for me, not really.
The Prompto is one of the better options because in phase 3 you have to spam AoE breaks every single turn, and that's what Prompto does.
Yeah, actually, I went through my entire roster.
Better options for that.
Yeah, there are, but like I've played since day one. I looked and I've pulled a lot in this game. Not gonna lie, I looked at all my options. I didn't have a single unit that could actually do it as good as Prompto. So Beatrix could actually do it, but she has this weird ramp up of having to have like 55% break on 2 turns before you actually get rolling with actually really strong spammable breaks. So yeah, Prompto was my best like go-to option. I didn't have Kryla, and I don't know who else does more than 65 AoE spammable.
Probably just Kryla, actually.
Don't you have Rainbow Whip?
Rainbow Whip would
Rainbow
be
Whip
very,
is a
very
bad idea for the trial.
Yeah, I actually think it works though.
These sigils will counter every single wrong element that you hit them with.
But it still works.
Yeah, I think it actually does. Because like I had, so my setup was that I had multiple elements on every unit dual wielding so that I could seal as much as possible. And on one turn I had to hit a single sigil with 5 elements. And like it wasn't that bad. I think, and Charlotte didn't have magic mitigation up at that point. I don't actually remember why. I probably just forgot it. But she went down to 5k health. And so it's not that bad. Like 2 more elements. If she had magic mitigation, she wouldn't die.
Well, talking about sealing, the trial actually made me bring Livich and Toto to seal the elements. Like, it's interesting how if you don't have Kryla, you are forced to bring or forced to try out actually a lot of different elements to clear, a lot of different units to clear the trial.
Listen, I equipped the
definitely.
materia that does like wind water damage, like does all the status effects. I had that on my Serena. So just saying.
Clearly,
Like theoretically, you could do it with any unit as long as they have like 2 or 3 innate magics, and then you rely on Esper, and then you need to equip like another 3 or 4 through equipment.
Rainbow Whip is for casuals. Real men use Cecil and Never-Ending Hope.
Livich Shantoto actually has 7 of the 8 elements as spells. She literally only needs Banish from the Esper, from an Esper, and she's good to go.
One of the problems though with the trial is that you like, or I mean, I guess it depends really on the team comp, but it's not really super beneficial to have a unit that only seals. You want to be able to do more. So kind of my plan with Prompto was that he was going to wear 3 elements, dual wielding, and then like since he has to AOE break, he can also throw in his auto crossbow and actually like seal 3 elements at once, and that worked really well. But you still needed backup for almost every element because Charlotte can't seal ice if she also needs to cover that turn. And if she doesn't seal ice and she's the only ice sealer you have, you're going to die because one of the sigils is going to turn red.
I use an evade auto provoke Livich Shantoto. The lock dagger from all the locks SDMR from all the locks that trolled me on Terra's banner was finally useful here.
Yeah, but unfortunately, like Cotton, Lock is still a better unit, so you're...
Lock,
she used it too.
Lock, the better unit on that banner, trolled you.
No, I know.
I was going for Terra also.
Yeah.
It took me 4 locks before I got a single freaking Terra.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm the other camp. I actually got 4 Terra and I got a single lock, unfortunately. But yeah, that was actually a fun
the joys of double banners.
Yeah, absolutely, right. But so you used a Shantaro. That was actually pretty cool. It was actually on suggestion from Tide on Discord. And how many elements? How many elements does she cover?
All of them.
She does. Oh, okay. Wow, that's really.
She has 7 of them innately and Banish from an Esper plus innate dual cast.
But then she only sealed for you then. Like that's the only thing you used her for in the 3rd phase.
Seal and auto provoking.
Oh, auto provoking. Oh shit. Yeah, but that's then really useful. Yeah, I'm gonna try another run at some point in time, and then I'm probably gonna do the auto provoker being a rainbow whip sealer or something like that. Just see how that works.
I am curious how rainbow whip will turn out.
What do you mean? Oh, you mean like if people are gonna die or not? Yeah, I need to see. Like I haven't actually tried sealing all 7, but let's see. Maybe if you have Cecil, it's probably fine.
Yeah, probably. If you have Cecil, you can do a lot of bullshit.
Yeah. Like let's just agree to hate that unit. Like I've seen people rock it so much in my friends list. I just can't look at my friends list anymore.
I think you should keep pulling.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna try to do dailies at least, but like I spent so like no, it's like I'm not gonna pull any more on that banner.
All right, well that concludes our episode 2 of the Global Exclusive Podcast. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks again to Sinzar for being our guest. And we're really looking forward to next week. We've got more guests lined up. We've got more fun stuff. I'm sure Gumi will have more gaffes. And I know we're all looking forward to the best double unit and probably the only good double unit ever, which is Signacio. All right, see you guys later. Bye.